have a very special guest who's going to share with us his experiences as a personal brand and globally recognised author. Please can you welcome up here Steve Guest. Welcome to you, Steve. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
It's very nice to have you up here. We've been on a panel together about a month ago at the Expo.
We have, yeah. Twice in a month.
I know, I was going to say. You get sick of it. I just prefer this format. When you start on a panel, I think we started about that. When you start on a panel, you kind of like sat there waiting for the next person. So I think this is just a bit more, I don't know, relaxed.
Yeah, it's a bit more informal.
Now, I can't believe anyone in the room doesn't know who you are. But can you just give us a brief history to what you do and why you're here today?
Yeah, so Steve Guest, you can tell by the dotted tones, I'm a brimming. So I've been in recruitment 20 years. I run a small recruitment agency based in Aldridge. I've always recruited the same desk, so commercial construction for contractors and residential developers. I've wrote 3 books. The first one, Top Biller, 2019, 39,000 copies, 72 countries. It's the highest reviewed recruitment book on Amazon. Sorry. Which is crazy really, because the actual idea behind writing it was really to empower the recruiter that perhaps didn't quite fit in. That was the first thought. And the second thought was to have it almost as merchandise to hand out to client meetings, because I knew I was going to go solo and work for myself. So again, I think thankful to COVID in the fact that probably most recruiters were at home on furlough and needed something to do, so they bought my book, which I think then spiralled. So gone on to write 2 books, one on personal brand, one which was the guest list, which is the best podcast episodes or most downloadable.
I missed my chapter in there.
You were on the guest list too.
Am I? You've all heard that here first. That's a little joke. I haven't actually prepared for this question, but I'm actually really intrigued because I wonder if there's any budding authors in here. Anybody ever thought about writing a book? So what would I got approached in COVID by a publisher genuinely saying, would you like to write a book? And I forgot time to do that. So genuinely, when do you have, like, if you were to speak, whether it is just Joe, anyone's thinking about doing something like that, what would your advice be? If they think they've got a book in them?
Yeah, it's hard work. But I think I'd surrounded myself within like property circles, and everyone had wrote a book, and it was all about having online assets and having things where people can get to know you and familiarise yourself when you're perhaps not in the room. Have a plan. I mean, the reason I got Top Biller published was I set a date with a publisher, and then I knew I had to get it done by a certain time. So yeah, I would ask a question or write down the questions that you get asked, and then use that almost as a daily plan to answer the question, so you know you're constantly adding value. That's how I wrote the first book.
So you're doing it on just a consistent basis, rather than just sitting down and writing a book?
I used to get in the office for about 5:30, 6 in the morning, which was crazy.
That's really late. I'm just saying that to my fellow 4 a.m. gang.
It was so dark and cold, and I used to do it because there was never enough time in the day, and you have to almost create it. So I knew I had about an hour before the consultants would come in to actually just get things done. So if I'd got the question from the day before, it was in essence writing a couple of paragraphs.
Right.
And then I got someone that could collate it all that actually made it make sense.
I'm just really intrigued. I don't know if anyone else is, but we have got Steve's books here this evening. I don't know what's happened to the QR code. It's all gone horribly wrong. So I don't know if you all made a note, but seriously, I think if you've got people in your team that you want to buy the book for, it's a really nice Christmas stocking filler. I'm just saying, £5.
Secret Santa.
Secret Santa. Yeah. I mean, in all seriousness, just stick it on your bookshelf in the office. But for £5, it's all going to charity. He's obviously donated them. We don't want to see any books left tonight, so we'll get the QR code back up. So your book, The Top Biller, is a Bible, I think. You know, we've sent it out to loads of place candidates, and they always see back and say, you know, it's interesting because, you know, I feel like I've been doing it forever. But it focuses on things like behaviours and tactics. So how do we ensure that with everything that's going through as an evolution from an AI perspective, that we are, I guess, keeping the behaviours in the forefront of how we're working to be the top biller?
Mm-hmm. I say very much like Lindsay, I'm probably a dinosaur as well. I like old school recruitment. I am process procedure, and Top Biller talks through those behaviours and having structure and a plan. But I think back, like 2006, when I started recruitment, it was about activity, it was about getting in front of your clients, it was about being that go-to person, getting known. I had a testimonial folder that I used to take out and show who I'd worked with references. Nothing, I mean, things have changed, and yet evolution kind of takes over, but the introduction of LinkedIn, the introduction of social media, and all these various tools, they enhance the process and they aid how you work. And that's simply it. You grow and build as a recruiter, and you incorporate certain things that allow the process to be better. But I'm still that traditional recruiter that services a client, understands a job spec, goes out and finds the best candidates, or vice versa, and actually give that personal element along the process. I suppose in essence my testimonial booklet has become, I don't know, maybe the references on LinkedIn
endorsement,
yeah. And AI and tech really just allow you to be more efficient in the processes that you carry out. But actually the fundamental behaviours of who I am as a recruiter, I still work to the targets and KPIs that Hayes set back in 2006. Anyway, that's what I write down on my planner every day, even 20 years in. It's just that tech and various things that are now out there allow you to perhaps get there a little bit faster.
I mean, from an evolution point of view, I'm sure we'll come on to this, but I think there's always been a threat to recruiters. I mean, there's been job boards, oh my God, they'll kill recruiters, LinkedIn, it'll kill recruiters, and I think generally the behaviour that I see that recruiters have is that we adapt really quickly. And what's really nice to see is that we have got some young people in the audience tonight, and I think people that have been doing it, maybe a little bit longer, we can learn from so many diverse people around us. So we can use the social media, we can use the technology, we can use the AI, but not forgetting at the heart of everything is that we are humans to humans.
Yeah, I think so. I think sometimes we get lost in AI and tech, and we think it's the answer to all of our problems, and then certainly I think sometimes there's a gap in the generations of, I'm perfectly happy picking up the phone. In fact, I'd rather pick up the phone and speak to someone. And actually, this day and age, I think that puts me ahead of certain recruiters that don't like using the phone.
That's not age specific. I've seen recruiters.
I think,
who don't like the phone.
Maybe it's not age specific, or maybe it's just the expectation now that AI and tech does the work for you. So actually, why do I need to call? Because I can send 300 messages in one go. Actually, that isn't the answer.
No.
The answer is the person that picks up the phone and makes that personable conversation beats the 300.
Which is what Lindsay was talking about. It's making that connection.
Yeah.
And I think it's
finding the balance. I'm not saying it's the wrong way. It's definitely a way, because we don't get to decide how the audience wants to respond to what we do. Some clients and candidates want the message, they want the direct message, they want the email, they don't want the phone call.
Yeah.
I'm a cold caller's worst nightmare, I don't want them calling me.
Yeah.
But I expect the people I'm ringing to answer the phone, because I like them.
We're all the same.
I think sometimes we elevate certain things that make us faster and more efficient, but sometimes forget the bit that actually we all want that personable conversation, or someone to actually understand how we're feeling or what we're doing. And AI and tech doesn't necessarily do that. It might just get you there quicker.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you something now that we haven't actually prepared for. Steve, in the end, it just looks something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because I got to know you really well in COVID, didn't I? Like that's when we really connected. And I think for me, you epitomise what diversity, when we talk about diversity, because you are a self-proclaimed introvert and naturally very shy. And I think if I think back over, 99% of my time as a rec to rec, it's, we want confident, we want social, we want this, we want that. It's like this certain type of person, which is why we need people like you, Joe Major, to educate us that there are all kinds of people that we need in recruitment. And I think there are probably people sat in this room right now that naturally would probably self-label themselves in a similar way to you. So what would your advice be about people pushing themselves out of their comfort zone a little bit? Second bit of the question is that as leaders ourselves, how do we ensure we are attracting people who maybe are more introverted and less likely to put themselves out there?
Okay. I think from school I was always the quiet one. Uni I was the quiet one. I went off to be a holiday rep because I knew it was the worst place in my head that I thought I could go.
Can't think of anything worse.
Honestly, it was a good decision, but at the same time, I was so frightened at the time that it was
Where
just
did you go?
Fuerteventura and Andorra.
Can I just ask, why did you choose to do that when it wasn't like
I
something?
just think I knew there was something that I could, there was like a gap. I knew I wanted to do things and push myself to new levels, but because I was so kind of quiet and shy, I almost you have to like frighten yourself or push yourself into a position where there's no escape. It's like doing things like this. I mean, everything I did in COVID was online. So like the guest speaking that you put yourself forward to, I was sat in the study at home, so it was okay. It was kind of, I think the first time I got asked, I'd had a couple of drinks and I was like, yeah, I'll do that. And then I woke up in the morning thinking, I need to cancel that.
We've all been there.
And I was a buyer by background, a qualified buyer, and my wife was recruiting, and I knew I could go off and do recruitment, and I felt I could offer something different because I was always let down by salespeople. And even like just being honest and being informed or knowledgeable, turning up for meetings, doing what you said you were going to do, the salespeople were rubbish. And I just thought, as a buyer I could go in, and if I just did things well and was honest, turned up on time, told them what the market was actually doing and not told them what they thought they needed to know or I thought they needed to know. And that was my plan. I went for an interview, got told I wasn't the right type of person, wasn't confident enough, wasn't salesy enough, didn't fit the profile, and actually Dal, is he sat there?
I think he might have gone to the toilet.
He knew I was going to name him. Dal hired me, effectively because this other company wouldn't, and he gave me the chance to effectively prove myself. And I went through the ranks in terms of recruitment pretty quickly because I just became that reliable, consistent person that clients and candidates could turn to because I was honest with them. One of the best things about writing Top Biller is the direct messages and messages I get that nobody sees that says I've empowered them or motivated them to go back into work on Monday and be comfortable with who they are. And that's the best thing from the book. All the numbers are great, but actually there's individuals that felt they never fitted in. They were the quiet one that sat at the back. They weren't the ones that got applauded at the end of the month reviews and things. But they would write me a message to say, I'm so glad I've read
Anyone
your
else
book.
covered in goosebumps? I'm literally goosebumps. I can see Paul like, woo!
It is.
Brilliant, I love that. It's just so authentic.
It's amazing.
In your face, what you're getting from saying that.
Yeah,
but Top Biller's like 5 years old now, and I still get them. I've had a message this week to say that there's a guy that has pushed himself to be a recruiter. He's got an interview on the 2nd, and he now feels so much more confident going for his interview because he feels like he's got more knowledge about getting into recruitment.
Dal's back in the room. You were name dropped by Steve here because you hired him. We were talking about him being introverted. So what advice would you give to other leaders in the room about looking at, you saw something special in him?
Just answer the questions. I think good recruiters or good trainees have got good active listening skills.
What did you say? Sorry.
So yeah, I always remember it because we had some alpha male, which wasn't really my thing. And then Steve came in, me and my manager just looked at each other.
Are you saying he's not alpha male?
No, not at all. And we laughed because he just answered every single question that we asked.
That's lovely. Thank you for answering that. And I know we didn't prepare you for that. Thank you so much. Yeah, you've made us all feel quite emotional, and I think, I think for me, you epitomise what never mind Top Biller, what a good recruiter is. You care about relationships, you care about people.
I think my biggest fear is disappointing someone. Yeah. And I think if you big up a client, a job role, an individual, and it falls flat, or you've been dishonest, or you've sold something in an inappropriate way, that's 100% on me. Mm-hmm. And I would never want someone turning up and sitting there thinking, this isn't the person that I've been sold, or this isn't the role that I've been offered. And I think being honest and just fulfilling a service, ultimately we're in the service industry, every placement I make is a reflection on me. Every company I work for is a reflection on both the candidates I'm putting forward and the type of business I'm trying to sell. And I've always had that throughout the 20 years, and I still do it now. I still recruit now, and I'm still motivated to do things in an honest way with integrity.
That's what integrity means, and it gets overused so much, doesn't it? So, thank you so much. I think that was quite an emotional interview. Has anybody got any final questions for Steve before we move on to our next guest? Oh, we've got one from Liz.
Is it going to be another book?
Oh, good question.
I'm not writing one at the moment.
The guest list too, you just said.
There might be the guest list too. I think if anything, it's probably a top biller too, because it's been, 5 years or maybe even 6 when I write it. So much has changed, and actually the ideas behind writing the first one, I'm in a very different place now to probably almost do to pardon the pun, bookends of books. But I don't think I've got it in me to write too many more, probably one more.
Is the guest list coming back? Your podcast?
I don't know.
Because I really enjoyed your podcast.
Yeah.
And
Do you know, I loved it, and I always loved the interviews and the conversations. I think it was the legwork to keep it consistently moving.
It takes a lot of work to run a podcast, let me tell you. You have to be consistent with it.
And I felt if ever it got to the point where it was detracting me from doing the day recruitment job, then I would pause it. So
This is why I do it the way I do it, which is I book one day a month and I just fill it with guests. And then it's done, and then I pass it over to my team, and then you get a weekly episode. And it's just a really simple strategy, because otherwise I would just get so distracted all the time. So, but I would like to see it come back, because I really enjoyed your show.
Thank you.
So maybe think about it. Thank you so much to Steve. Remember, the book. Let's not forget the book.